In this video, I will briefly summarize the contents of the book, The Road to Ruin: How to Avoid Losing Your Money in the Next Economic Crisis. This book explains how the crisis will end and what steps you can take to protect yourself. The book was written by one of my favorite economists, Jim Rickards. The title of the book sounds like some kind of conspiracy theory, but that's not what it's about at all. To understand why Jim wrote this book, let's first talk about who Jim Rickards is, besides being an economist and scientist. For many years, Rickards worked as a lawyer for an elite group of people who run the most influential financial organizations on the planet, such as the Central Bank of America, also known as the U.S. Federal Reserve, the International Monetary Fund, Wall Street, and so on. When certain laws are passed, it is difficult for the average person to understand the consequences of their adoption. But as a lawyer and economist, Rickards sees the essence of these decisions and how they affect the global economy as a whole. The author emphasizes that the global elite has a special plan. Only we are not part of it. Instead, part of our wealth is. Many people imagine the global elite as a group of mysterious individuals who wear hoodies and discuss the future of the world at round tables. But, according to the author, it is no secret who these people really are. These are central bankers from the world's largest countries, finance ministers, and scientists. He even mentions some of their names in his book. It is noteworthy that the author never makes statements that are not backed up by scientific evidence or specific information. In this video, I will outline the content of the book in 3 parts. First, I will explain why we are in a crisis today. Second, I will discuss the consequences this may have and the possible outcome of such a situation. Finally, I will outline what actions can be taken to protect ourselves. Part 1. To understand why we are experiencing economic problems today, the author analyzes the consequences of 2 crises, those of 1998 and 2008. Many people know about the crisis of 2008, but are unaware of what happened in 1998. In 1998, one of the largest hedge funds, Long-Term Capital Management, made a number of risky investments in derivatives, which posed a serious threat of a financial crisis. When Wall Street and the U.S. Federal Reserve realized the seriousness of the problem, they had to work together to rescue the hedge fund. Otherwise, the big banks would have collapsed like a house of cards. The author was actually one of the people who made this deal to save the economy. Jim claims that the world managed to prevent economic collapse just a couple of hours before it happened. The main cause of the 1998 crash was derivatives. What are these derivatives? In simple terms, derivatives are a kind of stock market game. Let's say I borrowed $10,000 from your friend. After the transaction is successfully completed and all the necessary documents are signed, I call you and say, "I bet I can pay back all the money," to your friend. The moment you agree to a transaction, derivatives, or in other words, PFIs, financial derivative instruments, are created. DFIs are bets on future prices or the probability of certain events. They are created out of thin air, are opaque, unregulated, and have no limits on their size. According to Warren Buffett, derivatives are weapons of mass destruction. If we had learned our lesson from 1998 and got rid of derivatives, we could have avoided the crash of 2008. But that did not happen, and it is impossible to turn back time. In 2008, the problem was much more serious. So the Fed had to intervene on its own to save banks and large financial institutions from impending collapse. The Fed cut interest rates to 0 and increased its balance sheet from $850 billion to more than $4 trillion. If they had reduced the balance sheet to its previous level and raised interest rates after the crisis, one could say, "Great, you got into debt to save the world, and when the crisis was over, you paid it back." However, this did not happen. Like ordinary people, governments also borrow money in bad times and pay it back in good times. But it seems we have forgotten this simple rule. It can be compared to a situation in 2008 when a patient had a heart attack and the doctor used all the medicines to help him recover. But when the patient recovered, the doctor did not replenish the supply of medicines. And now the patient's health is much worse than before, and the doctor has no more medicines. Some may say, what's the problem? We stopped the crash in 2008 by simply printing money. Why not print it again? Money is not backed by anything, so you can print as much as you want. That's true. After all, today there is no gold or silver to back up any currency. But behind every currency in the world, there is one important thing: confidence. The only reason you accept my pesos, euros, or dollars is because you are confident that when you take them to the shop, the cashier will accept them. If we continue to print money uncontrollably, people will eventually lose confidence. And trust is a very fragile thing. Once it is lost, it cannot be regained. If we print money non-stop, people will say, you know what? I don't feel comfortable with this. I don't want these pieces of paper. Give me something that is truly valuable. Why haven't we learned from the past and continue to do the same thing? According to the author, one of the main reasons for repeating mistakes is the use of outdated economic models. If the wrong model is applied, the result will always be wrong. Just because the models developed by Keynes worked in the past does not mean they will be effective today. Economics is a science, and science never stands still. Newton was one of the greatest thinkers, but many years later, Einstein proved that his theory was incomplete. This does not mean that we should forget about Newton. For his time, his theory was the best. Similarly, Keynesian theory may have served well in its time, but now it does not. Keynes cannot be blamed for this. We can only blame his followers. Let's look at one example to make it clearer how some models become outdated. While studying at university, I learned about the Phillips curve in my macroeconomics course. According to this curve, there is a negative correlation between unemployment and inflation, meaning that when unemployment falls, inflation should rise, but in most cases, this does not happen. You can observe this for yourself if you analyze the economic situation. Part 2. How the crisis will end. Financial markets are complex, dynamic systems, similar to those we observe in nature, such as earthquakes and other cataclysms. During an earthquake, energy is released. You cannot influence or stop an earthquake, but imagine for a second that it were possible. If there were a way to stop an earthquake, the energy would not disappear. It would accumulate and eventually find a way out. A similar situation occurs in financial markets. In 2008, we stopped the financial earthquake in its tracks, but that does not mean that the energy released has disappeared. It will inevitably find an outlet. As you can see, each subsequent crisis is worse than the previous one. In 1998, Wall Street was saved by hedge funds. In 2008, the Fed saved Wall Street. And now the question is, who will save the Fed? Rickards argues that the only organization with a net balance and capable of saving the central bank is the International Monetary Fund. The global elite are aware that the system is unstable and will ultimately collapse. When things get really bad, which is already happening today, they will try to present us with their solution to the problem. In the first stage, the system will be frozen. The amount that can be withdrawn from an ATM will be limited to funds for purchasing food and fuel. Once the system returns to normal, the dollar will no longer be the world's main currency. The dollar will become as significant as any other local currency, such as the Mexican peso. And what currency will become the main one if the dollar loses its position? The main currency will be the IMF currency, called SDR, Special Drawing Rights. The SDR is known as the world currency, and the IMF itself is known as the World Central Bank. The author emphasizes that the goal of the elite is to create a single world order, a common world government, a world currency, and a unified taxation system. They realize that their plan is not particularly popular, and since 1969 they have been trying to implement it in parts, making appropriate changes to legislation. In a normal situation, no nation would agree to transfer all its powers to a central government, especially the United States. But as soon as chaos and bloodshed break out in the streets, the elite's plan will be put forward as the best way to solve the problem. Incidentally, weakening the US dollar is also part of this plan. The US is the strongest nation financially, and they will not want to give up control just like that. But once the dollar falls and crisis hits the country, people will want to find a way out of this situation. In difficult times, People want a strong central government, and they are willing to make sacrifices and are open to accepting the decisions presented to them. This time, we will not have a war in the usual sense of the word. A financial war will break out, which will have equally dire consequences. The financial war will affect every country, every city, every shop, and every home. If the elite's decision is made and the SDR becomes the reserve currency, it will lead to high inflation. If the elite's plan does not work, there is a possibility that we will return to the gold standard. But personally, I very much doubt that this will happen. If, for example, you had a McDonald's restaurant in the city center and someone opened a KFC next to you, would you be happy to see competitors appear in your city? Similarly, banks would not be happy if the gold standard were reintroduced because it would significantly limit their business. Let's move on to the third part. In this part, I will share Jim Rickards' strategy for protecting yourself from the coming economic collapse. If I tell you that we will definitely experience inflation in the near future, you will know exactly what to do. You would buy physical assets such as gold, silver, and land. On the other hand, if I tell you that deflation is coming, you would understand that the best solution would be to save money and buy bonds. According to Jim, we are walking on a knife edge and could veer in either direction. He urges us to be prepared for any turn of events. Rickards calls this the barbell strategy. It is well known that a barbell consists of three parts: a disc on the right, a disc on the left, and a bar in the middle that holds both parts together. According to this strategy, one side of the barbell should consist of inflationary assets, such as gold, silver, and land. The other side of the barbell should contain deflationary assets, that is, bonds. Finally, the bar in the middle is cash capital. Many people disapprove of the idea of holding cash and do not want to burden themselves with it because it supposedly does not generate any income. But according to the author, you should consider holding cash for the following three reasons. First, cash is a hedge against deflation. During deflation, the value of money increases. Second, it reduces the volatility of your funds. If one part of your investments becomes unstable, you can sleep peacefully. You don't need to sell anything to survive. You will be able to make purchases as before. Thirdly, having cash gives you freedom of action. If you see inflation or deflation approaching, you can easily turn the situation around. Incidentally, Warren Buffett is known for keeping a huge amount of money in reserve. He waits for a company to go bankrupt and then buys its assets at an incredible discount. Earning money and saving it are two different things. Many people earn a lot of money but do not know how to save it. The book tells an interesting story about how people accumulate their wealth over hundreds of years. Towards the end of the book, Jim recalls a dinner with a wealthy Italian family from a noble family. This family has preserved its wealth for 31 generations over 800 years and has survived many market ups and downs, pandemics, plagues, countless local and national conflicts, and even 2 world wars. Jim asked this family a simple but truly important question. How have they managed to preserve their wealth for such a long time? Surely there must be some secret. The family's answer was this: they divided all their wealth into 3 parts. The family kept 1/3 of their wealth in real estate and land, another third in gold, and the last third in valuable works of art. It may be quite difficult for us to acquire precious works of art, but gold and real estate are quite accessible, especially gold. The author recommends investing 10% of your investments in gold and silver. Subscribe to Chapter and Capital, where every story of money has a soul.